How do you feel now after 1 year of intensive work? How do you feel?
Mm, feels good.
Yeah,
I'm glad and also grateful that I got in to the
yeah.
universities that I did get into. But at the same time, I know that there's a long way and a long road ahead. So the idea is now to prepare for everything that lies ahead.
Yes, so everything, and don't forget first the financing. It's important for you that you find money for the that you find financing. By the way, if you want, I can help you because we work closely with the Prodigy Finance. And then also, don't forget to start to look already for a job, for an internship for next year. It's not because you get Kellogg, not because you get Michigan, because you get Duke, that companies will hire you so easily. So develop your network in the country where you want to work. So imagine that you want to work in America, but don't imagine that a big brand will open all the doors. So it's or it opens the doors, but it doesn't guarantee a job. So you have to do much more. Okay. Alors basically,
That's right.
so can you tell all our guests the result that you have had after this year of work? Where do you stand now?
Sorry.
The results that you have received so far. The results.
Sure. So my application journey started back in July of this year when I gave my GMAT and I got a good score. And before that, I was not very sure of the kind of universities I'd applied to. But I got a great score, which is 770, and that's when I decided that I should be applying to at least the top 50 MBA universities according to the FS ranking, according to the FT Financial Times ranking, and nothing below that, right? And so I first applied to Singapore Management University in Singapore, and within a week of applying, I actually got an admit with the maximum scholarship, which is close to 18,000 Singapore dollars. And that kind of gave me a moral boost to, look at the US, look at ISB, which is the best in India, and 32 on the FTE ranking. And even while I was applying to the US, I was just thinking of two things. Either I wanted to go to the top finance schools, which is why I had also applied to Wharton in Columbia, or I wanted to go to a school which was based out in a college town versus like a big city like New York or say San Francisco or California or anywhere along the West Coast. And that's when I decided that Michigan Ross, Duke Fuqua, and Darden, UVA Darden would be great opportunities. They definitely come within top 15 US MBA programs, but something that's really unique about them is that they're based in a very small town, not like New York's or say Paris of the world. And the advantage is that you're able to go much deeper into the community. You're definitely forming some lifelong relationships and connections that will help you establish your foot in the US, right? And so that's how my journey began. This was my thought process. Wharton and Columbia was far-fetched, whereas Duke, Michigan, and Darden were not. And in India, the reason I chose ISB is because of the unparalleled network that ISB brings in. It's a very very tight knit network. It's a very good network to be a part of, and I think something that really worked in my favor is that my interview was just fantastic, and I think that played a major role in getting me a 100% scholarship, which so far I believe is rare because to all the round one admins that I've spoken with, nobody's got greater than a 75% scholarship. I'd say. So
So
long
that's
journey.
why it was a long journey. Alors, so yes. So first, I wanted to tell our guest today that Imisha was the only student to get a 100% scholarship at ISB. By the way, when I met ISB, because I had a meeting with ISB 2 weeks ago, They told me that they still remember you, okay? And by the way, they will be very disappointed that you don't go there, but they were very impressed by your persona and by your achievements. Now, of course, you have a dream. Your dream is America. What attracts you so much in America? Why don't you want to stay in India with a 100% scholarship? Why do you want to go to America, and what do you expect in terms of personal, academic, professional development?
I think one thing that really attracts me to the US is the global diversity, right? So ISB is great in the sense, or any university in India is great in the sense that you're getting that regional diversity, you're getting diversity in terms of the professional experience that your cohort brings. But I believe that as a person, and Hubert, I think you'd kind of agree that, even during the application process, you must have seen me having a lot of biases, right? And
Yeah.
those individual biases, you only realize them when you
Mm.
interact with someone from a totally different culture, right? And I believe that MBA, it's a very crucial decision of your life. And given the opportunity, given the ability and the possibility, you should definitely go to a place that brings in all-round development. And the kind of diversity, given the kind of diversity US universities have, I think personally I'll become a much more I think globally sensitive person, globally responsible person. Also, I'll be living in one of the most developed countries in the world with very good healthcare facilities, with best infrastructure. And I think it'll open my mind, open doors for me, which I think might or might not be possible in India. And it'll give me a sense of where I want to take my professional career, right? Whether it is coming back to India and maybe implementing something that I witnessed in the US, or whether it is staying in the US to climb up the corporate ladder and hopefully, I don't know, maybe look for government jobs as well, right? To get into maybe a political role and so on and so forth, which of course is very far
Yeah,
fetched,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
But
Yeah, you'll
but
have a long
I,
life ahead. Huh? You see, Misha, you have a long life ahead. Of course, you can perfectly start as an investment banker, then work in private equity, then have responsibilities, and later on in life, run an NGO either for India or for the US. There will be a lot going on in your life. How old are you, Misha? 25, 26? How old are you?
so
How
I'm
old are you?
24.
24 only, so 20. Start your MBA, you finish when you're 27. So there will be a lot going on. Uh, so basically, you have been accepted to many schools. I know that we still have to work together on the Kellogg wait list, and I will tell you what we have to do. Okay, later on. Contact me earlier next week. Among all the schools that you have been selected by, which one will you take?
I think I'm yet to arrive at a decision, and what I'm really doing is I'm speaking with a lot of current students, both foreign nationals as well as Indian nationals, and getting their perspective on different universities. So by the looks of it, I think Darden, Ross, and Fuqua all are very good universities, business schools basically. And then currently I'm looking at taking up maybe either a Fuqua or maybe a Ross. So I'm stuck between Fuqua and Ross, and a lot of my decision will. So I'm meeting a lot of Fuqua students here in India.
Hmm?
They're here for their winter break, and I think only once I meet them, I'm also speaking with
Yeah.
the admissions director regularly to help me make my decision, because I want this to be an informed decision. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you that that's something that you need to do. By the way, Imisha, you have heard that there are major layoffs now in the industry. Goldman Sachs announced 4,400 layoff yesterday, I believe. I think Amazon 20,000. Basically, there will be a major layoff. You're not scared by that?
Not really, right? Because you're not doing MBA for, I mean, one reason why you're doing MBA is, of course, to give your short-term career a boost, right? But MBA is a degree that stays with you throughout your life, maybe 2, 3 years of salary compromise, which anyway you'll do if you do not do an MBA, right?
Mm.
So I believe it's a more macro scenario. Even in India, a lot of companies have frozen hiring. Amazon, for example, is frozen hiring in India. And I think this is true for any university, right? If Goldman Sachs is cutting down hiring and also laying off people, it would probably lay off a Harvard graduate as much as it would lay off like an ISB graduate, right? So I think it's very short term driven, and your career, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. And you should look at it that way. You should look at MBA. You should just see if it's the right time for you. And I think, of course, it's going to be more difficult for you versus for students who did when there was an economic expansion. But I believe that in the long run, there are a lot of merits. I think that will definitely override any challenges that you'll face in the short term.
Yes, I agree with you. It's a lifelong achievement. By the way, me when I went to the US, you see, Imisha, it was so I applied in '92 and I went there in '93, and there was no job at all. Okay, and I said to myself, I was like you. I said to myself, anyway, in life there are ups and downs. Yeah, well, it was not. It was, by the way, maybe probably for you, it's a good time to be in an MBA, because probably that in 3 years, once you leave, once you graduate, the economic situation will probably be better. Okay. Tell me, Misha, why haven't you applied to European programs? Why not European programs?
Applying for what?
European programs, European MBAs. Why haven't you applied for European MBAs?
Um, See, to be honest, I am still open to looking at Europe, but and of course, there's nothing like an INSEAD, right? As much as a Harvard or a Wharton is popular in the US and in the world, and so is INSEAD, right? So it's just that while I started applying, I felt that it's more important to apply to lesser colleges but maintain that quality versus apply to a lot of colleges and not have that quality. And given a choice between Europe and US, I just chose to apply to US. Again, there was no specific reason. I truly believe that INSEAD, LBS, HEC, ISEC, ISADE, all these are great schools to be in. And and I just love US because it's been my childhood dream, and that's why I thought I should do justice to it. But I don't think there's any specific reason for me not to apply to the
Yeah, so there was,
European
so basically, yes, you, and I believe, by the way, that's something that I want to say to our Indian applicants, is that probably the US is probably a better choice than Europe. Okay, for many reasons. First, language barrier. They will speak English there. Second
Yeah,
of all, the market is more dynamic. Okay,
that's true.
if you have a look at the crisis of '99, 2008,
Yeah,
the current crisis, I've noticed that the Americans are always the first one to recover, where Europe is still we still struggling. Okay, so, and
yeah,
finally, salaries are much higher in America than they are in the US, in Europe, and finally, you have a lot of success stories of Indians who are success stories in America. A lot of CEOs now,
that's true.
and so probably the perception is pretty good. In Europe, an Indian is for European, an Indian is an exotic person. Okay, it's a
I
vegan, it's a guy who's a bit funny that they don't really understand. They have heard of them because they have heard of them because now vegan is very fashionable. You see in Europe, so that's what they will say. But at the same time, the perception is not as high as it is in the US. So that probably, maybe, of course, you have many more Indians in the UK. Yes, of course, makes sense. But you still an awkwardness in France or in Spain or in Germany. That's probably
very
something
much.
that you have to consider. Um,
And just adding on to what
yeah,
you said, Hubert, I've been speaking with a lot of admits at LBS, and they're also very skeptic about UK's economic environment. So I think Europe looks slightly tense also because of the ongoing war. and a lot of geopolitical factors, I'd say. And another reason why Indians are kind of slightly avoiding Europe at this point, because
Yeah,
there is a lot of uncertainty
yeah.
regarding employment, and they're struggling with their own citizens as well, right? So then it becomes difficult to take care of foreign nationals. So
It's true. It's true. And the
having
economic
having said
situation,
that, I think London is a great place to be. It's a very cosmo culture, as cosmo as probably New York is. And if you feel that you have the kind of network to get a job there, to establish yourself there, well, why not, right? I don't think there's anything black and white. US has its own challenges, but I just say that make a more cautious call if you're looking at the UK or the Europe versus the US. If you're looking at UK, it's much better than Europe at this point, but just ensure that you have your networking sorted even before you're say entering UK for that matter.
yeah,
Right, and I think then you're good to go, because you Indians have their unique skill set. They're very hardworking, very dedicated, and I think that's something employers around the world appreciate, whether it's US or UK or Europe
yeah,
for that
yeah.
matter.
So exactly, the geopolitical situation in Europe is a bit uncertain. You see, for instance, Imisha, if you consider that Europe, geographically, Europe goes from what I would say from Ireland, okay, to
Yeah.
what we call the Ural Mount, so which is the European part of Russia. Okay, and if you consider that, I would say that you're already one third of this Europe, of the geographic Europe, is in war, in real
Yeah.
war. Okay, and probably one sixth. So that's why we come up to something like 40%. No, to 50% is deeply affected by the war. So that's the neighboring countries from Finland to Romania.
Mm.
There
Mm.
are neighboring countries that are at war, okay, which is not a little thing, okay. So you could say that 50% is already at war or in a pre-war state. And I perfectly understand that being an Indian, you don't want to go into that, okay.
Mm.
That perfectly makes sense. According to you, Emisha, what lacks, what does ISB need to attract potential like yours? Because of course, I have many students who score in the 750 plus who consider ISB, why not, but as a second choice. What is there, for instance, that even with a 100% scholarship, you're going to turn down ISB?
Hubert, honestly, there is nothing that ISB lacks at this point. Because it's situated in India, which I would say a lot of foreign students don't see as a preferred destination to study, right? And for no fault of ISB, right? And when you're saying that a lot of students above 750 see ISB as the second option, I would beg to disagree, because like I said, I have met with a lot of round one admits. I have spoken to them. I am deep into the ISB network. And it's my observation that a lot of them are choosing ISB over a tuck. A lot of them are choosing ISB over a Darden. A lot of them are
Mm,
choosing ISB over a Ken Flagler. A lot of them are choosing ISB over a Texas McCombs. So and this is exactly the perception I had before interacting with students who've actually chosen ISB over these universities. And the answer is very simple, right? If you're supposed to stay in India in the short term, medium term, or the long term, especially medium term versus long term, it makes total sense to take an ISB over a top 15 in the US, unless you've got an Ivy League, right? A Kellogg has a network in India, a very strong network in India, so does Harvard and Wharton, but I'm not sure how Darden's network is in India. I'm not sure how Macom's network is in India, how Tuck's network is in India. University of Michigan, better than say a Darden. Duke, again, I'm not that sure, right? So I think there's nothing ISB lacks. ISB in the time to come, I actually see ISB rising up the ladder tremendously. Both because even from a macroeconomic perspective, a lot of jobs are going to come to India, and given that they're going to come to India, they're definitely going to come to ISB. ISB is going to receive its fair share of all the jobs that will be coming to India. And I think in the next 10 years, we should see ISB doing much better. So to speak, I am, and as far as my case is concerned, I have still not eliminated ISB. I am still weighing my choices. I might still end up going to ISB considering the fee burden is minimal, right? It's nothing, it's zero. I'll just undergo some living expenses, which I would regardless of where I'm living in India, right? So I think there's nothing that ISB lacks. I feel that as and when India develops more from an infrastructure perspective and also from from a destination, a study destination perspective, a lot of students from the Middle East, a lot of Asian students, a lot of South African and African students, they'll start looking at ISB as a preferred study destination. And when that happens, we can definitely see ISB go from say a 32 to a 25. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's something.
I think all good for ISB so far.
Then I'm sure that the school is going to develop. They are very ambitious. By the way, I went to visit them 2 weeks ago, and I was impressed by the infrastructure. It was in Hyderabad, and also by the quality of the teachers, because they bring teachers from over the world.
Correct.
I
even have someone in R1 admit who he's been in Hong Kong for 4 years, he studied in Hong Kong for 4 years. Now he's worked in Hong Kong for 4 years and is choosing ISB over the US. I have someone who did his undergrad in Cornell in the US and is choosing ISB over US. I have someone who did his undergrad in the UK, is a ACCA in the UK, has worked in UK for 4 years and came back to India to do his MBA from ISB, right? So that is the kind of brand that ISB commands, at least amongst Indians.
Okay, so yes, I perfectly see this type of thing coming up. Imisha, if you could give a piece of advice to someone applying, okay? What are the piece of advice that you like to give him or her? So what is the recipe of success? How did you manage to be so successful?
One thing that I realized at the end of the process, and now in hindsight, I realize how important it was, but a lot of applicants constantly overlook this magic factor. And the factor is, really thinking about who you are as a person. Because all these MBA schools, be it ISB or be it the US, they definitely look at your professional achievements and what you've done in your career so far, but they also want to know your future potential, right? And a lot of that future potential, or where you'll be in the future, what you'll be doing, comes from who you are as a person. So it's very important to kind of think about the values that kind of drive you, the impact that you want to create. What are those few things in life that really make you happy, right? And a lot of people in their applications, they're all about consulting, they're all about investment banking, and they're all about professional achievements. But what they fail to kind of showcase in their application is who they are as a person, how empathetic they are, how global they are, how caring they are, how much human they are. And I think this came out very beautifully in my interview with ISB. So what actually happened in my interview at ISB is that I spoke a bit about personal values that I stand for, and one of them I spoke about is honesty, right? And throughout the interview, whenever they asked my opinion on something, I gave a very honest opinion. And then I feel that they kind of felt that she has a value that she truly believes in, and she consistently displayed that value throughout the interview, right? Even if you see Fuqua, for that matter, which is another great B school in the US, they value your personality and your fit over your grades and over your achievements, right? Because as long as you're very strong on your personal values, you will go ahead to do well in your professional career. You will be a great entrepreneur, and you will do something that will be really impactful, and which is what all the universities, they want to be associated with. Well, they of course want to be associated with a CEO at BCG, but they of course also want to be associated with someone who's probably feeding 10 million kids all over the world, right? So
Yeah.
I would definitely suggest anybody who's looking to apply at ISB or US or anywhere for that matter, even INSEAD for that matter, do focus on your personal attributes. What do you like doing during your free time? How is that molding you as a person, right? I meditate a lot, and that has made me very patient. I was facing a lot of roadblocks when I was applying to the universities. I felt like my essays were not up to the mark. I was really worried about my LORs. But what I did is that I actually exercised patience. I took charge. It's very important to take charge of your applications, I would say. And in that whole process, you realize a lot of things about yourself as a person. And I would just say that, highlight those things in your application. It's very, very crucial for them to know you as a person, way beyond your professional achievements.
That's the thing. So I would say that to sum up, because we have been working together. So first, work on your GMAT, because if you don't have a good GMAT, it will not work. So get at least a 700. You don't need to have a stellar GMAT score like Imisha, but a 700 is a minimum. And of course, if you're aiming M7, 750 plus is essential. Second of all, work on your profile. So it's a pity that I didn't have time to work with Imisha on that, because when she joined us, we decided to work on the application. Certainly, if she had come a bit earlier, we would have tried to improve our international exposure, some of our leadership activities. So that's something that you have to work on, and that can help you make a difference. And finally, apply to the school that you like, but also apply to many schools, because unfortunately you have many strong Indian applicants, and the competition is fierce. It's not like when you're French, if you have a 720, 740, if you apply to M7 and your profile is pretty good, you get probably 2 out of the M7. But it's possible that with a 760 as an Indian, you get 1. So that's something that you have to consider, and especially if you're a man. If you're an Indian male engineer, it's going to be tough. Well, that's
But you
the
know what?
yeah.
Just adding on to what Hubert said, one thing that I'd really like to suggest to anyone who's applying to the US, always aim high. So, there have been people with just 2.5 years of work experience, and they have got through a tough, even like at a 710, right?
Yeah.
And this is when the average work experience is 5.5 years. Right. So I would always say that do not look at the college averages in terms of GMAT score, in terms of work experience before applying. Apply, put in your best application, and then see the results, right? And then eventually, if a school doesn't take you, to be honest, you'll realize that you never belong there, right?
Yeah.
I didn't get a call from Columbia,
Yeah.
right? And now when I think about it, maybe I lacked something in my profile, but maybe it's a school I would never fit in, even if I was selected and even if I decided to attend. So I would say that don't think of any school as being too far-fetched. I speak with a lot of people and they're like, oh, we're not applying to Harvard, there's no way we'll get in. Well, you'll never know, right? You apply and then you see. It's very different. Everybody's journey is very different. While you can definitely draw some insights from my journey, I'll always say that your journey will be very, very unique to you. And which is why always take risky bets, I would say, because we have nothing to lose. We have just maybe some $75 of application
Yeah.
fee to lose. That's all.
Yeah. Exactly. So thank you very much, Misha. So we still have to meet for Kellogg,
Sure.
and from there we will determine. Of course, the problem is that the admission process, the waitlist for Kellogg can be pretty long. And I will explain to you later on how the admission process and the waitlist process works. Thank you very much, Misha, and I wish you a
Thank
great
you.
day, and talk to you next week. Have a good day, Misha. Bye bye. Bye bye.
Bye bye.